The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a deep hum. Ambassador Minho Kim stepped inside, his black diplomatic suit looking plain against the colorful alien forms filling the enormous room. Behind him walked Captain Yun Seo, Park, carrying a small datapad that contained Earth's fleet specifications. The chamber was bigger than any sports stadium on Earth. Floating platforms held representatives from 12 different alien species, each more advanced and intimidating than humans had ever imagined. Crystal beings that looked like living diamonds sat next to insect-like creatures with multiple arms. Giant floating brains pulsed with purple light while talking to lizard people in golden armor. Minho had practiced this moment for months. Earth's first official meeting with the galactic community. Everything had to go perfectly. He walked to the center platform and bowed respectfully to the assembled aliens. "Honored beings of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "I am Minho Kim, speaking for the people of Earth. We come seeking friendship and our place among the stars." A few alien delegates nodded politely. Others seemed bored. The Zephyrian representatives, tall beings made of what looked like living crystal, whispered among themselves. Their Admiral Vextar leaned forward, his diamond-like face reflecting the chamber's lights. "Show us what you have brought, human," Vextar said, his voice sounding like wind through broken glass. Captain Yunseo stepped forward and activated the holographic projector. The image of Earth's exploration ship Soul's Pride appeared in the air, slowly rotating for all to see. The vessel was solid and functional, with thick steel plating and large chemical rockets at the back. Silence filled the chamber for a moment. Then someone started laughing. It was a Corvan general named Thrax, a huge creature covered in black armor with glowing red eyes. His laughter boomed across the chamber like thunder. Soon, other aliens joined in. The crystal Zephyrians made tinkling, sounds like breaking glass. The insect beings clicked and buzzed with amusement. Chemical propulsion? Vextar's voice dripped with disbelief. "You still burn primitive fuel to move through space?" General Thrax stood up, his massive form casting shadows across the platform. "My youngest offspring builds better toys than this. Steel plating, chemical rockets. These creatures are barely past throwing rocks at each other." More laughter echoed through the chamber. Minho felt his face grow hot with embarrassment, but he kept his expression calm. This was exactly what Earth had expected. "The design is simple but effective," Yunseo said quietly. "Our ships have successfully traveled between star systems." "Slowly, I imagine," said a floating brain creature. "How long does it take you to travel 1 light year?" "Approximately 18 months, with our current faster-than-light drives," Yunseo answered honestly. The laughter grew louder. Several aliens were now pointing at the human delegation. A snake-like being with 6 arms slithered closer to get a better look at the primitive humans. 18 months, Thrax roared. "My warships crossed that distance in 3 days, you people. Should have stayed in your little system playing with fire and sticks." Vextar rose from his seat, his crystal body catching the light. "Honored Council, I propose we classify these humans as a developing species. They should remain in their home system until they achieve actual civilization." "Agreed," said the floating brain. "Perhaps in a few thousand years they will develop real technology. Until then, they pose no threat and deserve no expansion rights." Other delegates nodded in agreement. Minho watched as his months of preparation crumbled around him, but inside, he felt a small smile forming. Everything was going according to plan. "We understand your concerns," Minho said diplomatically. "Earth only wishes to learn from your advanced civilizations. We accept whatever restrictions you feel are necessary." "How noble," Thrax sneered. "The primitives know their place. Very well, humans may maintain their current territory within the Sol system. Any expansion beyond that requires council approval, which will not be granted until you prove yourselves worthy." The formal vote was swift and decisive. 12 species voted to restrict humanity to their home system. Earth was classified as a protectorate under Corvan supervision. Minho accepted the decision with grace and thanked the council for their wisdom. As the session ended, delegates began filing out, still chuckling about the primitive humans and their ridiculous ships. Minho and Yunseo gathered their materials and prepared to leave. "Ambassador," Vextar called out as they reached the exit. "A word of advice. Focus on agriculture and basic manufacturing. Leave space travel to those capable of handling it." "Thank you for your guidance," Minho replied, with a polite bow. Outside the chamber, Yunseo looked defeated. They completely dismissed us. 18 months of preparation wasted. Minho placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Captain, activate your quantum communicator." Yunseo looked confused but followed orders. The small device hummed to life with an encrypted signal. "Control, this is Ambassador Kim," Minho spoke quietly into the device. "The presentation was successful. They bought every word. The fools think we're primitive children playing with rockets." A voice crackled back through the communicator. "Understood, Ambassador. How long until they discover the truth?" Minho looked back at the council chamber where aliens were still, laughing about humanity's primitive technology. "Give them 6 months to get comfortable. Then we show them what we really built while they weren't watching." "Copy that. Phase 2 is authorized. The Shadow Fleet awaits your signal." Minho smiled as they walked toward their transport. Earth's greatest deception had worked perfectly. 3 months after the humiliating council meeting, Dr. Jaewon Lee floated through the corridors of Titan Research Station, hidden deep beneath the icy surface of Saturn's largest moon. The facility stretched for kilometers underground, filled with technology that would make the arrogant aliens reconsider their mockery of human engineering. "Morning report, Doctor," called Lieutenant Su Jin Han as she approached through the zero-gravity tunnel. Her military uniform bore no insignia that would identify her as part of Earth's most classified project. Jaewon checked his tablet, reviewing construction progress across 47 hidden installations throughout the solar system. Bay 7 is ready for final assembly. The Incheon Ghost should be operational within 12 hours. They entered the main construction bay through an airlock. What waited inside defied everything the Galactic Council believed about human technology. The ship before them seemed to absorb light, its hull existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. It was sleek and deadly, nothing like the crude steel vessels Earth had shown the aliens. "Still gives me chills," Sujin whispered, staring at the impossible craft. Colonel So-Young Choi emerged from behind the ship's quantum field generator, her tools floating around her in the artificial gravity field. "The dark matter drives are calibrated perfectly. We can fold space-time itself with these engines." Jaewon nodded, remembering the decades of secret research that led to this moment. While Earth's public scientists struggled with basic fusion reactors, hidden teams had been developing technology that manipulated the fundamental forces of reality. The breakthrough came from studying debris from an ancient alien crash site found buried in Antarctica. But instead of copying the technology, human scientists improved upon it. "How many ships are ready for deployment?" So-Young asked, wiping grease from her hands. 43 fully operational, another 30 in final stages," Jaewon replied. "Each one invisible to conventional sensors, capable of instantaneous travel across the galaxy." The Incheon Ghost was just one vessel in humanity's Shadow Fleet. Unlike the primitive rockets shown to the Council, these ships existed in quantum superposition. They could phase through solid matter, manipulate gravity, and generate controlled black holes as weapons. Captain Dong-Hyun Park appeared on the observation deck above them, while his sister Yunseo played her role as captain of a struggling exploration vessel. Dong-Hyun commanded Earth's most advanced warship. The Soul's vengeance floated in the adjacent bay, its weapon systems capable of erasing entire fleets from existence. "The aliens still think we burn chemical fuel," Dong-Hyun called down to them. "Their intelligence reports show complete belief in our deception." Jaewon smiled at the irony. Earth's greatest achievement was not the technology itself, but the patience to develop it in secret. When humanity first detected alien signals 50 years ago, world leaders made a crucial decision. They would not reveal their true capabilities until absolutely necessary. "Remember Project Looking Glass?" So-Young asked, referring to the early warning system that had been monitoring galactic communications for decades. 20 years of listening, To alien chatter. J1 nodded. We learned that advanced species either conquer or destroy newcomers who appear too capable. Better to seem weak and harmless. The strategy worked perfectly. While aliens laughed at human steel ships and chemical rockets, Earth's hidden facilities produced vessels that could manipulate quantum mechanics and bend reality. The crude fleet shown to the Council was real, but it was also completely obsolete technology that humans had abandoned years ago. Doctor, incoming message from Command, Su-Jin announced, checking her encrypted communicator. The holographic display activated, showing Admiral Sungmin Kang from Shadow Command buried beneath Mount Namsan in Korea. His expression was serious as he addressed the assembled team. We have a situation developing in the Kepler system. Corvan forces are massing near our research stations. Intelligence suggests they plan to test our defenses. Jae-won felt his stomach tighten. The research station on Kepler 402b housed 200 civilian scientists and their families. If the Corvans attacked, Earth's public response would seem helpless. Rescue ships would take months to arrive using conventional faster-than-light drives. What are our orders? Dong-hyun asked from the observation deck. Admiral Kang's image flickered slightly before responding. Maintain operational secrecy unless civilian lives are threatened. If the Corvans cross that line, you are authorized to demonstrate why underestimating humanity was their greatest mistake. So Young checked her weapon systems one final time. The singularity generators are fully charged. We can erase their entire battle group without leaving debris. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Jae-won said, though he knew the Corvans' reputation for brutality. As the briefing ended, the team returned to their preparations. Throughout the solar system, Shadow Fleet crews ran final diagnostics on systems the galaxy couldn't imagine. Quantum field manipulators that could make ships invisible to any sensor. Dark matter engines that folded space-time for instantaneous travel. Weapons that manipulated gravity itself to crush enemies or simply phase them out of existence. The beautiful irony was not lost on any of them. While aliens mocked humanity's primitive technology, Earth had already surpassed their wildest engineering dreams. The steel ships and chemical rockets were museum pieces, kept operational solely to maintain the deception. Jae-won watched the Incheon Ghost complete its final systems check. Soon, the galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest strength was not their hidden technology, but their wisdom to appear weak while growing impossibly strong. The Shadow Fleet was ready. Now they just had to wait for the right moment to reveal the truth. Dr. Hai Jin-yoon was examining rock samples in her laboratory when the alarms began screaming. The research station on Kepler 442b had been peaceful for 3 years, a small, human outpost studying the planet's unique mineral formations. Now red warning lights flashed across every wall, as automated systems detected incoming ships. All personnel to emergency stations, the announcement echoed through the corridors. Unknown vessels approaching at high speed. Hee-jin dropped her samples and ran toward the communication center. Through the station's large windows, she could see dark shapes emerging from hyperspace above the planet. Massive Corvan battle cruisers, their hulls bristling with weapons, descended toward the research facility like predators closing in on prey. "Why are they here?" whispered Jinsu Park, one of the younger researchers. "We're just studying rocks." Dr. Minwoo Choi, the station commander, was already at the main console trying to establish communication. "Corvan vessels, this is Kepler. Research station. We are a civilian scientific facility. Please state your intentions." The response came immediately, harsh and threatening. "Human facility, you are in violation of Corvan territorial expansion. Evacuate immediately or face destruction." "But this system was declared neutral space," Minwoo protested. "The Galactic Council assigned it to joint research." General Vaktor's voice boomed through the speakers. "The Council's authority means nothing here. This sector now belongs to the Corvan Empire. Remove your primitive presence or be removed." Hee-jin felt her hands shaking as she watched the massive warships position themselves in attack formation. 200 people lived and worked on this station. Families with children, elderly scientists who had dedicated their lives to peaceful research, young graduates just beginning their careers. Send the emergency beacon, Minwoo ordered. Alert Earth to what's happening. The beacon transmitted immediately, carrying news of the crisis across hundreds of light years to Earth. But everyone knew help would arrive too late. Earth's rescue ships would take 8 months to reach Kepler using conventional faster-than-light drives. Corvin Commander, we have families here, Minwoo pleaded. Give us time to evacuate. We are not military targets. You have 1 hour, came the cold reply. Any humans remaining will be considered enemy combatants. 1 hour to evacuate 200 people and 3 years of research. The station's small transport shuttles could carry maybe 50 people at most. Even working perfectly, they could not save everyone. Back on Earth, President Jinwoo Nam sat in his office in Seoul, reading the emergency report. Around him, cameras recorded his official response for broadcast across human space. He looked tired and helpless, exactly as the galaxy expected from primitive humans facing advanced alien aggression. The Republic of Korea and all Earth nations condemn this unprovoked attack on civilian researchers, he announced to the cameras. We are dispatching our fastest ships to provide assistance, but they will require several months to reach the Kepler system. The broadcast made humanity look weak and desperate. 3 rescue ships launched from Earth, their chemical rockets glowing bright against the dark of space. Every alien intelligence service would calculate their arrival time and confirm human, technological limitations. But beneath Mount Namsan, in the heavily shielded chambers of Shadow Command, a very different meeting was taking place. Admiral Sungmin Kang stood before a holographic display showing the Kepler system in real time. Corvin Battle Group consists of 12 heavy cruisers and their flagship dreadnought, reported Captain Dong-hyun Park. Standard formation, conventional, shielding. They have no idea we're watching. Civilian casualties, the Admiral asked. Evacuation is impossible with their time limit. If they follow through on their threat, 200 innocent people will die. Admiral Kang was quiet for a long moment. The plan had always been to maintain the deception as long as possible. Let the galaxy think humans were primitive and harmless, but watching civilians die to protect a secret was not something humanity could accept. Sir, Captain Dong-hyun continued, my sister Yun Seo is trapped on that station. She's been maintaining her cover as a simple exploration captain, but I understand, Captain. The Admiral turned to face the assembled Shadow Fleet commanders. Ladies and gentlemen, our deception has served its purpose. The time for hiding is over. He activated the quantum communication system that connected to every Shadow Fleet vessel throughout the galaxy. All units, this is Admiral Kang. Operation Phantom Justice is authorized. Show the Corvins what happens when they threaten human lives. In the Kepler system, space itself began to ripple. Quantum fields fluctuated as 12 Shadow Fleet vessels phased into existence around the planet. They appeared without warning, their advanced stealth systems dropping to reveal ships that should not exist. Captain So-young Choi commanded the lead destroyer Busan's Shadow. Her crew had been watching the Corvin ships for hours through quantum sensors, waiting for orders. Now they finally had permission to act. All weapons powered and ready, her tactical officer reported. Singularity generators at full charge. Remember, So-young announced to her crew. Precision strikes only. Military targets exclusively. These Corvins are about to learn that humanity is not as helpless as we appear. On Kepler 442b, Dr. Hae-jin Yoon watched in amazement as impossible ships materialized in the sky above them. Sleek vessels that seemed to bend light around them. Technology that made Corvin warships look like ancient relics. Where did they come from? Jinsu gasped. Minwoo smiled for the first time since the crisis began. I think we're about to find out what Earth has really been building all these years. The Shadow Fleet had revealed itself. Now the galaxy would learn the truth about human capabilities. Admiral Thrax stood on the bridge of his fortress ship, Dominator, watching his fleet surround the human research station on Kepler 442b. The massive vessel was the size of a small moon, armed with weapons that could crack planets and protected by shields that had never been penetrated in 300 years of conquest. Status report, Thrax demanded, his red eyes glowing in the dim light of the command center. 12 heavy cruisers in attack formation, his tactical officer reported. The human facility shows no military defenses. Their evacuation shuttles are barely functional. Thrax laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Of course they have no defenses. These primitives can barely reach their own moon without exploding. Signal the fleet. We destroy the station in 10 minutes. Around him, Corvin officers prepared for what they expected to be a simple execution. The humans had ignored their evacuation deadline, leaving 200 civilians trapped on the surface. It would be a perfect demonstration of Corvin power and human weakness. "Sir," the sensor operator called out, confusion in his voice. "I'm detecting strange energy readings." "Explain," Thrax ordered. "Unknown signatures appearing throughout the system. Multiple contacts, but they're not showing up on visual scanners." Thrax moved to the main display, studying the impossible readings. Energy patterns that made no sense, ship signatures that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. "System malfunction. Run full diagnostics." "Diagnostics complete, sir. All systems functioning normally. The readings are real." Before Thrax could respond, space around his fleet began to change. Reality itself seemed to ripple like water, and then ships materialized out of nothing. 12 vessels that should not exist, their hulls absorbing light while simultaneously glowing with impossible energy. "What are those?" the tactical officer whispered. The lead ship was sleek and deadly, completely unlike the crude human vessels they had seen before. It moved without visible propulsion, gliding through space as if gravity had no meaning. Along its hull, strange symbols glowed with soft blue light. "Human vessels," the sensor operator announced in disbelief. "But the technology readings are impossible. They're showing energy outputs higher than our entire battle group." Thrax felt something he had not experienced in decades. Fear. "Full shields. All weapons to maximum power. Prepare for battle." Captain So-Young Choi sat in the command chair of her destroyer Busan's Shadow, watching the Corvin fleet scramble to respond to their sudden appearance. Her crew worked quietly at their stations. Centuries of human engineering focused into this single moment. "Target the flagship," she ordered calmly. "Singularity weapon, minimum yield. We want to make a point, not destroy the entire system." "Weapon charged and ready," her tactical officer reported. "Quantum lock established on target. Admiral Thrax," So-Young broadcast on an open channel. "This is Captain Choi of the Earth Defense Force. You have 30 seconds to withdraw from the system before we demonstrate why threatening human civilians was your greatest mistake." On the Dominator, Thrax stared at the transmission in rage and confusion. "Earth Defense Force? These primitives have no military worth mentioning." "Sir, their weapons are powering up," the tactical officer reported. "Energy readings are off the scale. I've never seen technology like this." "Impossible. Fire all weapons, destroy these upstart humans." The Corvin flagship unleashed its full arsenal. Plasma beams and fusion torpedoes that could vaporize asteroids streaked toward the Shadow Fleet vessels. The weapons struck their targets directly, and for a moment Thrax allowed himself to smile. Then the smile died on his lips. The human ships remained completely undamaged, their strange hulls absorbing the devastating attacks without even a scratch. The weapons that had conquered star systems had no effect whatsoever. "How?" Thrax breathed. Captain So-Young watched the pathetic display of Corvin firepower with mild interest. The Shadow Fleet's quantum-phased hulls existed partially outside, normal spacetime, making conventional weapons completely useless. It was like trying to destroy a ghost with a stick. "Time's up," she announced. "Fire." The singularity weapon activated with no visible beam or projectile. Instead, space-time itself began to fold around the Dominator. The massive fortress ship, pride of the Corvin Empire, simply began to collapse in on itself as artificial gravity crushed it from all directions. "What's happening?" Thrax screamed as his bridge began to buckle. "Emergency power to shields." The shields meant nothing. The weapon was not attacking the ship itself but the fabric of reality around it. 50,000 Corvin warriors watched in terror as their impregnable fortress folded like paper, compressed into a point smaller than an atom, and then vanished completely. No explosion, no debris field, no final transmission. The mighty Dominator simply ceased to exist, erased from reality as if it had never been built. Lieutenant Sujin Han monitored the operation from her stealth cruiser Soul's Vengeance, watching identical scenes play out across 17 star systems simultaneously. Every Corvin military installation that had participated in the expansion campaign was experiencing the same fate. Battle stations eliminated in the Vega sector, she reported. The Centauri fleet has been neutralized. All targets destroyed with 0 Shadow Fleet casualties. The surgical precision was perfect. Military vessels and installations vanished from existence while civilian populations remained completely untouched. The message was clear and terrifying. Humanity could destroy their enemies with technology that made physics itself a weapon. 2. The Kepler system. The remaining Corvin cruisers fled in panic, their crews broadcasting desperate warnings about impossible human technology. Captain So Young allowed them to escape. Fear was more valuable than destruction. On the research station below, Dr. Hai-Jin Yoon watched through the observation windows as the Shadow Fleet prepared to phase back into quantum stealth. She had witnessed something that would change the galaxy forever, the moment humanity revealed its true power. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in absolute chaos. Delegates from 12 species floated frantically around the massive chamber, their voices creating a symphony of panic and confusion. Reports flooded in from across known space about impossible events that defied everything they understood about physics and human capabilities. Admiral Vextar's crystalline form trembled as he read the latest intelligence reports. Entire Corvin battle fleets had simply vanished from existence. Military installations erased from reality without leaving even atomic debris. The primitive humans who burned chemical fuel had somehow demonstrated technology that made the galaxy's most advanced civilizations look like children playing with toys. "This cannot be real," whispered the floating brain creature known as High Thinker Zeph. "Our sensors show ships that exist and don't exist simultaneously. Weapons that manipulate space-time itself. It violates every known law of physics. General." Corvin Yulk, the only surviving high-ranking officer from Thrax's expansion fleet, stood before the assembly with his armor dented and his confidence shattered. "I saw it with my own eyes. The Dominator was there one moment, gone the next. No explosion, no wreckage. It just stopped existing." The massive doors of the chamber slid open with their familiar deep hum. Every conversation stopped instantly as Ambassador Min-Ho Kim entered, wearing the same simple black diplomatic suit he had worn during humanity's first humiliating presentation 3 months earlier. But this time, the chamber fell into complete silence. Behind him walked Captain Yoon Seo Park, no longer playing the role of struggling explorer commanding primitive vessels. Her bearing was confident and military precise, the bearing of someone who knew her species possessed overwhelming technological superiority. Min-Ho walked to the center platform exactly as he had months before, but now every alien eye watched him with fearful respect instead of condescending amusement. The same beings who had laughed at human steel ships and chemical rockets now trembled at the mention of Earth's true capabilities. "Honored delegates of the Galactic Council," Min-Ho began, his voice carrying the same diplomatic tone but with an underlying strength that had not been there before. "I return to address your concerns about recent events." Admiral Vextar found his voice first, though it cracked like fractured crystal. "Ambassador Kim, we must discuss the technology your species has demonstrated. Ships that phase through solid matter. Weapons that erase targets from existence. How did your primitive civilization achieve such advancement?" Min-Ho smiled the same polite diplomatic smile he had worn when accepting humanity's restriction to the Sol system. "Admiral Vextar, I believe there has been a fundamental misunderstanding about human capabilities." "Misunderstanding?" High Thinker Zeph's brain pulsed with agitated purple light. "Your species showed us crude chemical rockets and steel plating. Now you possess technology that surpasses our combined scientific knowledge." "We showed you exactly what we intended you to see," Captain Yoon Seo spoke for the first time, her voice clear and steady. "The vessels we presented were real, but they were also museum pieces, obsolete technology that we abandoned decades ago." The chamber erupted in confused chatter. Delegates whispered frantically among themselves, trying to understand how they had been so completely deceived. The implications were staggering. Humanity had deliberately appeared primitive while secretly developing capabilities beyond galactic civilization. But why? General Yolk demanded. Why hide your true advancement? Minho gestured to the assembled aliens, many of whom had been laughing at human engineering just months before. Because history teaches us that advanced species either conquer or destroy newcomers who appear too capable. We learned it was safer to seem weak while growing strong. You've been watching us, Vextar realized, his diamond-like face reflecting dawning comprehension, listening to our communications, studying our technology, preparing for this moment. For 50 years, Minho confirmed. We detected your signals and learned about galactic politics long before making contact. We discovered that showing weakness invited protection, while showing strength invited subjugation or elimination. High Thinker Zeph's brain flashed with rapid calculations. The quantum signatures we detected during the attacks, ships existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously, weapons that manipulate fundamental forces. This technology is centuries beyond our current understanding. Perhaps, Captain Yunseo said diplomatically, or perhaps you simply underestimated what motivated humans could achieve when their survival depended on it. The chamber fell silent as the implications settled over the assembled delegates. Species that had dominated the galaxy for millennia suddenly faced the reality that newcomers had not only matched their technology, but had surpassed it entirely while appearing completely harmless. What do you want from us? General Yolk asked, quietly. What we have always wanted, Minho replied. Peace, cooperation, and the right to exist as equals in this galaxy. We seek no conquest, no domination. We simply will not tolerate being threatened or underestimated again. Admiral Vextar stood slowly, his crystalline form reflecting the chamber's lights. The Zephyrian Empire formally recognizes Earth's sovereignty and technological superiority. We offer full diplomatic relations and request trade agreements. Other delegates quickly followed suit. The Corvin representative, trembling with fear after witnessing his empire's military might erased overnight, offered territorial concessions and reparations for the attack on Kepler 442b. Species that had dismissed humanity as primitive children now competed to establish partnerships with Earth's advanced civilization. The Shadow Fleet, High Thinker Zeph asked hesitantly. How many ships do you possess? Minho's diplomatic smile never wavered. Enough. As the session concluded with humanity's recognition as the galaxy's newest major power, Minho reflected on the long journey that had brought them to this moment. Earth's greatest achievement was not the impossible technology they had developed, but the wisdom to appear weak while growing impossibly strong, and the restraint to use overwhelming power only when absolutely necessary. The galaxy had learned that humanity's true strength lay not in their weapons but in their patience, their intelligence, and their understanding. That sometimes the greatest victory comes from being underestimated by your enemies. Deep in space, the Shadow Fleet returned to its quantum hibernation, watching and waiting as humanity finally took its rightful place among the stars.